at det skjer noe når folk logger på.
Ja. And everyone is controlling their own mute buttons.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's easier. All right, can we go live now or soon to be 58?
Ja. Da vi mute her.
Ja.
And we are going live now. Carl, you can mute yourself as well.
For er det den skjermen du ser?
Ja. Den med den røde. Så du kan se for eksempel, hvis der så bliver rødt omkring os, så er det det, der bliver sendt. Jamen, 1 minut mere.
Ja, den er bare rett der.
Ja.
Ser du på? Hei og velkommen til webinar med TechData. Hvordan lykkes med implementeringen av Teamstreams og Surface Hub 2. Mitt navn er Henning Pedersen. Jeg er salgsspesialist på AVE. Med meg i dag så har jeg med meg Katrine fra Microsoft og Lars fra TechData i Danmark, som er Teams Black Belt. Vi har også en live-event gående med Q&A. Der kan dere stille spørsmål. Det vil bli trukket priser til de som svarer riktig. Da må man velge å være personlig og ikke anonym. Vi er en nordisk organisasjon som går i hele Norden med Norge, Sverige, Finland og Danmark. I Norge så er vi 2 stykker, som er meg og Roger. I dag skal vi snakke om møter og hvordan man blir med i møter. Og til å starte så er det Katrine fra Microsoft.
Takk skal du ha, Henning. Ja, mitt navn er, og tusen takk for at jeg får lov til å være med på webinaret deres som dere holder. Veldig glad for. Mitt navn er da Katrine Nymoen, og jeg jobber da som partneransvarlig for alle forhandlere i Norge som selger til Surface til bedriftsmarkedet, både hub og PC-siden. I min hverdag så møter jeg mange forskjellige bedrifter med mange forskjellige ønsker og behov for hvordan vi skal samhandle bedre. Da det jo en glede å kunne vise verktøyet Surface Hub. Det blir alltid stor begeistring, for kundene ser helt klart på andre muligheter hvordan de skal jobbe på når de blir introdusert og får vist Surface Hub, og ser mulighetene for mer fleksibilitet og en effektiv måte å jobbe på. Det som de ser med Surface Hub, så det slik at du kan på en måte dra med deg møterommet i forskjellige arenaer. Det vil si at hvis du skal på en måte ha en sofakrok hvor du skal ha brainstorming med avdelingen din, så tar du med deg Surfacen dit. Surface Hub tilpasset til både å ha lyd og kamera på en helt unik måte, og dette her gjør jo også det at den nye hverdagen vår, hvor vi jobber litt annerledes, hvor du har folk som til stede, og du har folk som på Teams, så gjør dette her at det blir en optimal opplevelse. Så jeg har da gleden av å introdusere videre til Lars, som da skal vise dere litt mer hvordan man kan jobbe på en Surface Hub. Da gir jeg ordet til Lars. Lykke til!
Mange takk! And I think that we're going to do this in English, just to make sure that everybody is able to understand what I'm saying. As Henning said before, we are a Nordic organization, and that's why we have a Dane on this call, since we're actually working as a Nordic organization, and actually the first time I met in person with you, Henning.
Yep.
But it's kind of fun because when we met each other, I felt like we already knew each other because we used to be on video so much with each other.
Yep.
So I think that's one of the benefits that we really have with using Teams as a normal way of working. So it's not every time that I travel to each country when we have meetings. This is actually the first time I'm in Norway, even though I've been in Tech Data for almost 4 years, 3.5 years, maybe a bit more. So I think it's a great opportunity to actually, first of all, come and meet you in person,
nice.
Trying to see the office and get a better understanding. So even though we have video conference and using Teams every day, it doesn't mean that we don't need to go out and meet each other in person. We still need to have that physical connection. But in a daily use, we can use Microsoft Teams as a great companion to actually have a much better understanding of each other. So let's dig into some of the things that I've talked about, or I'm going to talk about today. Most of the things is really looking at how we work today, because people are saying the new normal or hybrid work, but in my opinion, we're actually here already. I know that some of us is still struggling with doing the things, but we're actually here already. We are working hybrid. So most of the days I'm sitting in my home office, but there is also days that I'm working in the office. And then again, I never know where my colleague is. So we really need to think about how we actually work to make it a great experience for all of us. But just to kick it off and look at some numbers from where we are right now in Denmark. So this is a survey that we did in Denmark when we talked about how should we get back to the office. We really looked at how are they confident on getting back to the office? And more or less everybody said that it was. And then we asked, are you then actually going back to the office? And not so many people was. So that kind of paradox that we have right now where we want to be in person, but we still want the flexibility to actually work from home when we need to. So I have a floor plan of how it looked like when we moved into our new office in Denmark like 2.5 years ago. And then when we look at the numbers on how people that would like to work in the future, we more or less looked at about 55% usage of the meeting room. So we really need to rethink that the way that we have the meeting rooms. So honestly, we just took the Surface Hub. Let me find this one. Used the Microsoft whiteboard. Still the same floor plan. I just grayed out all the furnitures. And then we basically just copy pasted the different furniture. So now we could actually start to look at how we would like to set up our new office. And I know for a fact that I would love to have a live streaming studio in here. So that way we could actually start to move things around, and we could then take in offices. We could maybe take some dividers or some shelves into here, and then building up a new office, or how we would actually need to have the office in the future. So this is just one of the ideas where we use the Surface Hub to really work together on how we could set up the new office. It's a really easy way of doing it. But then again, when we talked with Henning, I added Henning to the whiteboard, and then we could actually collaborate on this floor plan, working together on it. So it really didn't mean I need to be near the Surface Hub all the time, since that everything that I'm doing on the Surface Hub is then saved to my folders of using the whiteboard. So in that case, I could still easily access it from my PC, and Henning could collaborate as well when he was in the office. So that's a way that we use the Surface Hub and the Microsoft Whiteboard. We will do some other stuff later on, trying to explain about some other features that we use the Surface Hub for. But basically, when we look at how we work during COVID-19, we more or less everybody sat from home in our own home office. And now we really need to think about how can we get back to the office. We need to make sure that we have the right equipment for people, so they still have a great experience using Microsoft Teams. It could be the Surface Hub, and it could be the Teams rooms that we're using now also. But basically, when we consider doing new meeting rooms, we need to think about how we actually plan the meeting rooms. And that could be, first of all, making sure that people are easily accessing the meetings. So if you look at the Teams rooms, you would have a console on the table that we have here on the console on the table as well. Basically what it does is getting people to access the meeting easily. On the Surface Hub, we will have the meetings up in top here. We didn't book any meetings for the Surface Hub today, since we're using the HDMI just into the Teams rooms, but basically making it as easy as possible to actually join the meetings. So that is the main reason why we need to look at how we build the meeting rooms, make it as easy as possible. But then again, if you didn't book the meeting already, then you might need to think about another way of joining the meeting. And Teams actually now have a room audio function. So if I'm walking into a meeting room with a Surface Hub or Teams rooms, and you want to use that Surface Hub, but you might not have invited the Surface Hub to the call, then you could actually use the room audio and then search for a room nearby, which actually means that you connect your PC to the call, but also the meeting room equipment. And in that case, you would then have the best experience of the Teams meetings, because you would then add the peripherals or the camera and microphones that you already invested in. Maybe we need to say that people is very welcome to ask us questions during the call. And we got some great merchandise that Catherine got us. So we got this really nice Stanley mug, got Microsoft power banks, and a very nice gym bag as well, maybe for the kids or for some running shoes if you want to do that during some of your trips. I know for a fact that I have this one, not a Microsoft one, but a green one. And it's really, really nice. So please ask us questions during the event, and then we will give some Microsoft swag away during the call. So I think it's a great option of getting some feedback from you guys, and then also for you guys to get some great Microsoft merchandise. Okay, so let's look at how we do the meetings. If we want to collaborate with each other, the best experience would be to have a Surface Hub, because the Surface Hub is actually built for being near the Surface Hub, using the whiteboard, being close to that one, and then collaborating with each other. But if you doesn't have the Surface Hub in all the meeting rooms, and you might have a Teams rooms and a good old analog whiteboard, as we still see in many of the meeting rooms, you can actually add an additional camera and then point it at the whiteboard. What it then basically does is that camera is connecting to the whiteboard, doing a framing of the whiteboard, so only taking the whiteboard into the content channel. And then when you start inking, it will actually also enhance the inking. So if you're taking a red pen, start to ink red, then Microsoft Intelligence will then enhance that writing, and you can even walk in front of the whiteboard and still be able to see everything that's been written on the whiteboard. So basically, the content channel where you normally present your PowerPoint or the spreadsheets, then you would have the option of actually changing to the content camera and using that installed. And that basically means that we are able to see what's been written on the whiteboard and not having that function of walking up to a whiteboard, sitting remotely and not being able to see anything been written on the whiteboard. Let's see how this is working. I did a short video test at home, basically from another live event. I'll try to agree on all this stuff since that I'll mute myself here. So basically what I'm doing here, I'm standing in my home office. I do have a bit more equipment than most of the people in the meeting or at the home office, but I have a whiteboard on the right hand side and then a content cam on top of the whiteboard. And then basically I'm able to walk up to the whiteboard and then take my hand up to the whiteboard, and people are still able to see everything's been written on the whiteboard. And then when I start to write on the whiteboard really soon, then you would see that enhancements being done by Microsoft. So basically when I start to draw, then you can see I'm drawing on the whiteboard, but Microsoft is also enhancing the whiteboard. So it's a really great way of being able to see what's been written on the whiteboard. So this is a function that works on the Teams rooms. Let me see if we can go out of this one again. But the function will also be available pretty soon on the PC devices as well. So a lot of great features actually coming from the Teams rooms to the PC. And then again, if you want to have the best function of the collaboration, then you should definitely have the Surface Hub instead. Can also add a touchscreen to the Teams rooms. It is an option. We're not going to show it right here, but it is an option already to actually have the whiteboard on the Teams rooms as well. And then if you want to have the best features of both the Teams rooms and the Surface Hub, then you would actually have the option of using the Teams rooms and the Surface Hub in the same meeting room. Somebody is maybe thinking about, okay, why should we actually have a Teams rooms and a Surface Hub in the meeting room? Because that's quite a lot. It might be, but for some, they really enjoy of having that experience, because then you could have the best audio and video feed from the Teams rooms and then have that collaboration that the Surface Hub uses. So both the full function of the Microsoft Whiteboard, of course, but definitely also the option of being able to sign into the device and then access all your files that we have done right here. So in my case, that is what I do every time when I walk up to a Surface Hub. I start by signing in, because then I have access to all my things, and then I don't need to have my laptop with me. I usually have, but then I use that for my own notes. Then I went into some notes. There we go. So what it means to set up two devices with each other is that we use what we call trusted accounts. So we configure the systems to trust each other on those two accounts. And it could also be two Surface Hubs, actually. So it doesn't need to be a Teams rooms and a Surface Hub. It could also be two 85-inch Surface Hubs as we installed here in Denmark at an end customers. And the expectation for them was actually we need to have full screen video and full screen content because we are really collaborating with each other across our different spaces. It could also be in this case with a town hall meeting where the recommendation or the requirement is that we need to have two video feeds from the same room. And since Microsoft is not supporting having multiple video feeds at the same time from the Teams rooms, then the option of adding an additional Teams room was then we could have the full video feed from the secondary Teams rooms and then both audio video from the first or the primary Teams rooms. Basically what we do is that we do trusted account. So the Teams rooms is then trusted with the Surface Hub and the Surface Hub is then trusted with the Teams rooms. And then we look at how we should use the systems. The Teams rooms would always be enabled for audio because that's a place where we can get the best audio. The video as well. But if we look at the Surface Hub, we might want to have the option of the users to turn on the camera. So right now we're actually using Teams rooms to do this live event. But if I wanted to be in that position, maybe then I would have the option of turning on the camera on the Surface Hub. So that's a pretty easy feature that you could set up, and then you would have the option of turning on the camera during the call. Then when we look at the experience of the whole Teams meetings, we never get a better experience than those who joins with the worst equipment. So we really need to think about getting Teams certified devices on both headset, but definitely also cameras. We're having more and more requests on these devices, which are basically an Android device, which is running the Teams application as a standalone product, but you could also do it in collaboration with your PC. So that could be basically like in the old days a zip phone, but this is just a Teams phone, and then you could choose to have it with a headset or a handset, or you could just use it as it is right there with the camera, mics and speakers. Then from the license perspective, we have two different licenses that we can use in a meeting room. I know a lot of people is still using the E3 or the E5 license, which is basically a personal license. If you should look at the right license model from Microsoft, you would need to look at the Teams Rooms license. It's a bit cheaper than the personal license, and you would get everything that you need for that. So you have the standard license, and this is where you want to do all the management yourself. We also got the premium license if you don't want to spend the time of managing your devices, or you might not have the time or the knowledge to actually do that. Then you could buy the premium license, and then you would get the management done by Microsoft. If we're looking a bit forward, there will definitely also be features that are not available in standard license that will be available in the premium license. I don't have the full feature list yet, but what we see in the roadmap is that there is coming more and more features coming up for that. Basically, when you have the premium license, you will get Microsoft to manage your devices, which means that if they see a failure and some of the devices might not even be at your place, but at some other customers, and they figure out how to fix it, then they would fix it before you even know it. If then they experience that somebody unplugged the camera, which is then a big issue for the next people joining the meeting, then they would actually proactively reach out to you and say, please look at this meeting room. The camera is disconnected, and then you would, the users would then have an even greater experience of actually being able to join the meetings right away. Then we kick it over to Henning.
Tack så Lars. Da skal vi snakke litt mer om hub, og hvordan en hub brukes. I motsetning til et MTR, så er dette mer enn et samarbeidsprodukt. Det å kunne gå opp til en enhet og logge seg inn med sin Office 365-konto, det er utrolig verdifullt. Det gjør samarbeidet mer interaktivt, og gjør at du får samarbeidet på en helt annen måte. Surface Hub 2S kommer i 2 forskjellige størrelser. Den kommer i 85 og i 50. 50-tommeren, der har du også muligheten for et stativ med batteri, sånn at du slipper å måtte skru enheten av når du flytter den. Vi har akkurat nå også en kampanje på Surface Hub 85. Det er inntil 10% rabatt, og vi har varer på lager. Når det kommer til samarbeid, så er det å ha produktet ikke nødvendigvis ha det nødvendigvis bare fast et sted på et møterom, men også ha det i et fellesområde for eksempel, hvor det gjør det lett å kunne gå opp til produktet og samhandle. Ja, så er det noe tilbehør. Vi har penn, kamera, fingeravtrykkleser, som funker hvis du har lagt inn Windows 10 Pro eller Enterprise. Vi har Steelcase Roam, som er til 50-tommeren. Vi har veggfeste, og vi har et batteri til 50-tommeren. Kommer i litt forskjellige monteringsløsninger, både vegg og gulv, og med rullebrett. Microsoft har prøvd å sikre seg litt med å ha en modulær datamaskin. Det vil si at den er fremtidsrettet. Skulle det komme noe som krever mer hardware, så kan man skru ut selve PC-en fra enheten, og så sette inn en ny en. Så har du oppgradert innholdet i Surfacen. TechData tilbyr også muligheten for deployment, adoption og support. Altså hvordan man skal rulle ut produktene, hvordan man skal ta det i bruk og supportere det i etterkant, hvis ikke bedriften har kapasitet til å gjøre det selv. Da kontakter dere oss, og så setter vi opp en plan på det. Det var det vi hadde i utgangspunktet. Er det noen som har noen spørsmål? Vi har jo masse flott utstyr vi har lyst til å gi bort.
Ja, det er en fråga.
En fråga, ja.
Let's do like this. Maybe you should read in Norwegian because it's basically about how long battery time have the battery solution.
Vet du det?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe we should take a talk about that, because when we have the Service Hub right here, the stand from Steelcase, then you would have an option of adding the battery down here. So the battery is built by APC Schneider. That is the recommendation for Microsoft. If you really want to have that full flexibility, then you can add that battery pack and then use the Surface Hub for around 2 hours. Basically it says 100 minutes, but our experience is 2-3 hours, so it really depends on how much you use it. But the official answer is 100 minutes.
Yeah.
And then the really nice thing is the way that it's cabled. So when you use the cables on to the power outlet, that actually runs through the battery. So you don't need to think about when to charge the battery and when to use the power outlet. So basically you just unplug. So right now if we have the battery, you could unplug the Service Hub and then roll the Service Hub out.
Akkurat som en laptop da.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do a town hall meeting for 2 hours and then take it back. So, and then when you plug it in again, it's around 1.5 hours. And then it's up to, I think, 90-95% of charge again.
Yeah. Er det noen som har noen flere spørsmål?
I don't think so. Da er ingen.
It was, yeah, then you will receive
yeah, there's a new one. Or maybe, no, sorry. No, that was the same one actually.
Then we'll reach out to, eller vi kontakter deg i dag, og så kan du velge hva du vil ha av gear. Og hvis det ikke var noen flere spørsmål, så kan vi vel egentlig bare runde av.
Maybe we should talk about some of the other things that we use for the Surface Up. If I can make this one, just to give an example on how we actually work with it, because we actually used the whiteboard in Teams rooms to plan some of the stuff for this live event. So basically what we did was that we took some of the templates on the Surface Up, which is available down here. So we have a lot of templates over here that you can use. SWOT, weekly planner and all that kind of stuff. We used one of them. And then basically what we did was that taking these notes and then using it for planning the events. And I'm here with my, it's a book 3, I think, but just the screen, so you can disconnect that one, which basically means that if, for instance, Henning is in the office, then he can be in the office and I could be sitting from home, and then I could say to do final technical test on Teams rooms and Surface Up. I hope we've done that already, so we can move that over to done, and then Henning would then see that see the progress of everything. If we don't necessarily would need to be in the meeting room, so a to-do thing could then be sent the prize. Oops, sorry for the handwriting. And then we could even move things around. So basically what we mean is that we use the Surface Up in the meeting room for having that great experience of collaborating, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we can't use the whiteboard functions if we're sitting from home. I'm pretty fond of the Surface devices. I have a few of them at home. So having that option of actually having a touchscreen and use that make a great difference for me. And the cool thing is that everything that we write on the whiteboard on the Surface Up is then saved to my account, and I can even share it with you as we did on this one. And then we can see everybody is writing and collaborating. And if, for instance, Henning want to kick me out, I'm actually owning this one. So if I want to kick Henning out, or I say now he's only allowed to read and not write everything, then I can do the changes from the whiteboard application as well. So that's an application that works on all devices, even in a browser. So it's a great program. If you haven't used that already, please go and look for Microsoft Whiteboard. I think another really cool feature is that option of actually signing into the whiteboard as we did here, which means that we then have the ability to reach all our programs or files that is inside Teams and also in OneDrive.
Her har vi også et eksempel på hvordan man kan bruke en stor skjerm til å samhandle. Da. Her er det et selskap som driver med noe raffineri, kan det se ut som. Og det å kunne bevege og zoome inn på alt som på en fantastisk fin måte. Det finns alle apper som i Windows Store, de tilgjengelige også på Hub. Og man kan også bygge egne apper. Og dette er bare et eksempel på hvordan man kan ta i bruk Huben til samhandling, og vi ser i for eksempel entreprenører og så videre som har store byggeplasser, bruker Surface Hub til å gjøre endringer for eksempel på arbeidstegninger og sende det direkte ut i Surfacen til de som bruker disse tegningene, i stedet for å måtte printe ut store tegninger og vente på eventuelt at noen skal gjøre det for dem. Så kan de gjøre endringene live direkte i Office 365 og sende direkte ut til arbeidslederne for å få ting gjort. Det er et eksempel på veldig bra måte å utnytte Surface Hub sine muligheter.
Got a new question. This one is in English. Thanks for that. You say this is something that we should be able to show to my customers to showcase the usability. It is expensive for some or most SMB customers, and I agree. It's not the cheapest device, to be honest. But when we really look at how to use the Surface Hub, and also for the service that we did on how the usage of the Surface Hub compared to other meeting devices, we've got a much higher usability. So you don't think of the Surface Hub as only a Teams rooms device, like a meeting room device. It's basically also a device that we use for collaboration during the day. I have a Surface Hub in my home office because I use it a lot. I have it in my car when I drive around and do presentations because it's a great experience of seeing that. The question is also, is there a video of showing this that we can share? I know that this recording or this live event is being recorded, so you will have access to that. If it's a specific thing, then we might already have done a presentation on that only. So reach out to us if there is a specific thing that is needed on that one. Otherwise, we are streaming on live event in Microsoft, of course. We're actually having a behind the scenes camera over there as well, streaming on YouTube just for the fun of it. But please reach out to us if there's a specific thing that you would like to be.
Vi kan jo også stille da i møter både med dere som partnere og sluttkunder. Vi kan også ordne demo i våre lokaler i Oslo på Surface Hub. Det er bare å ta kontakt, så setter vi i gang det. Og dere som eventuelt ikke er Microsoft Surface Hub partner allerede, kan søke om det via Microsoft sine sider, og vi hjelper dere gjerne med å få satt opp den muligheten. For du må være sertifisert fra Microsoft for å kunne selge produktene.
What if I have a question for Catherine? Can I then get some merchandise?
Yeah.
Great. Catherine, we need you back. We need you back online with camera and everything, because I was really wondering. I mean, you might have said already in Norwegian, but I don't understand everything. What is the biggest issue that we see right now at the end customers when they need to collaborate with each other?
The biggest issue we see now is what you mentioned, the hybrid way of working. It's a new way for everyone how to work, and what we see is that they need to collaborate with people physically on site and connected up to Teams. So, and the rules, how are we going to do this the best way? How important is the equipment that you mentioned? This is kind of what they have in focus when it comes to the customers, and how to be able to collaborate in an efficient and including way of all the people in the meetings. That's kind of the top of mind of the companies at this point. And there's also, when you look at the employees in the different companies now, it's like you say, it's about 50% that wants to come back and 50% does not want to come back. And okay, where do you kind of these numbers? How do you as a leadership team, how do you cope with this situation where you have 50% outside the office and you're used to having about 100% in the office? So this is kind of top of the mind for leadership. How are they going to collaborate, and how are they going to set the scene to be able to keep the productivity up? We've seen that was fine when everybody was at home, but now when we are in a hybrid work way of doing things, this is kind of top of mind of the leadership. And they're really, really eager to look at collaboration solutions that we can offer into their organizations to be able to get as efficient as possible.
I think it's
was that an answer, Lars?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, all the leaders should just say yes. No. No, I really agree with you, because it's a real paradox, and I'll guess it's not really easy as a leader as well, because I mean, we in our company, we're used to use Teams on a daily basis, but it might not be in all the companies. So it's a steep learning curve for all of them. Being first of all learning to use Microsoft Teams and all that features, not only not owning the feature of having meetings across, but actually also being able to work across with each other on different, it could be documents, presentations, Word documents and stuff like that. So I think that there is a steep learning curve, but also being leader for someone that you never physically seen, but only seen on a video call. I usually draw something like this when I talk about communication, actually, because when we talk about how we communicate with each other, it's about 7% that is about what we are talking about. So basically we could relate this to a mail, and 38% is then about the pronunciation and what kind of energy we put into it, and 55% is about the body language. And sometimes I'm trying to make a bit fun of it, and I'll ask the customers, do you really want to leave 50% of your communication out? And people say, no, of course not, we need to tell everything. And I'm like, yes, but then you would need to turn on your camera, because it's so important to have that physical, or the view of others, to actually connect with each other. It's definitely not the same as being near each other, but just the experience of coming here today, I knew Henning already, because I've seen him so many times on the call. But it's really, really important to have that connection with each other. And that's also why we say that we don't have calls with each other without the camera on. We always need to have the camera on. It's okay if we need a short break, but then we will turn off the camera and go and get some coffee if we have long meetings. And when we get back, we're then turning on the camera as well. Another thing that I talked with one of the girls at Microsoft in Denmark was actually, when we look at organization, and definitely the younger ones, we would need to urge them to come back to the office because they are more social than the older ones, because they have family at home. So they were doing some kind of events at the office, like pizza and beers after work hours and stuff like that, to make it more appealing to get back to the office. So that might also be a thing to look at if you are having a lot of younger employees. Maybe do something to get them back to the office, because it makes a difference to actually be near each other. For the older guys, make better coffee. No, I don't know. Maybe make sure that they have the right equipment. That was what I said to when I was doing a presentation at the Office 365 user group, because the guy before me was just saying, we just need good coffee, and then everybody's want to go into the office. I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to go to the office if I don't have the right equipment. And if we look at how many people right now that is actually looking for a new job or is open for a new job, then we should really look into how can we make people stay in our company, and bringing the right equipment to the meeting rooms, making sure that they could communicate in the right way. I think that will be a major, major difference.
Yeah, I agree, Lars. I had a meeting with one of the largest banks in Norway last week, and we had a kind of a super user group, and that means that it was a lot of the employees as well, and the leadership group, and they came in and we showed them the Surface Hub and how you could work and everything, and they were just overwhelmed, because the feedback was, this is like using my own PC. I don't need to learn something new. I will be safe on how it's more, so they were just overwhelmed on how this solution could be used.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, a thing that we didn't really come across today was the new Teams application, which is recently pushed out to the Surface Hub. Again, looking at that kind of experience that we already know. Let's see what happened. I joined the call. But that option of actually having the same experience as using it on a PC makes a huge difference as well, because then they are used to work that way. So I think that's a great update on the Surface Hub as well, having that new Teams application on the Surface Hub. And then again, being able to have the same features that we have on the desktop. I think that's a great improvement on the Surface Hub as well.
Yeah, definitely. The customer loves it.
And we do too.
Yeah.
I think we are on the... Come on.
Can you give some updates on the offer on the 85-inch, Henning?
Ja, nevnte det tidligere også, men det er jo da som sagt inntil 10% rabatt nå på 85-tommeren av Surface Hub. Den har vi også på lager, så det er bare å kontakte oss, så får vi ordnet, om dere ikke er Surface Hub-partner allerede, så får vi dere opp og gå, og så kan vi shippe i dag, vi.
If you order today, me and Henning come and fix it.
Yeah. Så det er bare å kontakte oss. Noen flere spørsmål?
Nej. En siger, der kom svaret, så vi har svaret på noget.
Det er bra.
No, I think we are done.
Yeah.
In respect of your time and being close to the hour, what we said, 45 minutes, we're actually 2 minutes too. That's not my normal. I always go a bit more, give a bit more than you expected. No. Thank you so much for joining us at this live event.
Takk til deg, Lars, og takk til deg, Katrine. Så hvis dere har interesse for flere sånne typer webinarer, så si gjerne ifra, så skal vi kjøre på. Ha det bra.
Yes.
So must just stop with the live stream.
Now we are